Welcome to National Parks Traveler, where we explore the national parks and the issues that involve them.
Kansas is a big place, and not one particularly well known for national park destinations. But that doesn't mean you should overlook the Sunflower State. This is Kurt Repanshek, your host at the National Parks Traveler. In the closing days of September, as the country seemed destined for a government shutdown, I headed into Kansas to visit some of the parks there to better understand their role in the national park system. And I was not disappointed. Back in 2022, I made a similar trip and stopped at Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve in the Flint Hills of central Kansas. During that stop, Ranger Eric Patterson gave me a wonderful tour of the preserve and explained its history to me. Eric has moved on, but during my recent visit, Heather Brown, the preserve's chief of interpretation, sat down with me and Patrick Cohn, the Traveler's special projects editor, to discuss the preserve in general and the Tallgrass Prairie specifically. During our swing through Kansas, we also headed to Nicodemus, a well-off-the-beaten-path destination in the national park system, one so far off the beaten path that the state of Kansas does Nicodemus National Historic Site a tremendous disservice by providing very little signage showing you how to get to Nicodemus. But stay determined and you can find the site. While the Park Service only claims 5 buildings at Nicodemus, and only 2 are open, the history of how the town site was founded in post-Civil War America by more than 300 previously enslaved peoples is an uplifting history of self-determination, grit, and perseverance. What follows are 2 conversations I had with rangers, before they were furloughed when the government shut down, at the 2 sites. Lucretia Horn at Nicodemus National Historic Site, and Heather Brown at Tallgrass Prairie. I'll be back in a minute with the Rangers.
Smokey's Life. Full of stunning photography and thought-provoking reads, Smokey's Life Journal is a biannual magazine produced by Smokey's Life, formerly the Great Smoky Mountains Association. Members receive it free of charge each spring and fall, and it is available for purchase in retail stores throughout Great Smoky Mountains National Park and online at smokieslife.org. The Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation is the primary nonprofit fundraising partner for the Blue Ridge Parkway. It is made up of people who have a deep love for this majestic road and want to ensure that its natural beauty and the experiences it offers endure for generations to come. Show your appreciation at brpfoundation.org. Washington's National Park Fund is the official philanthropic partner serving Mount Rainier, North Cascades, and Olympic National Parks. WNPF raises funds for scientific research, youth experiences, volunteer programs, and projects that preserve and protect these national parks in Washington state. Learn how you can help at WNPF.org. Acadia National Park is one of the 10 most popular national parks in the United States. It's also one of the smallest and most vulnerable. That's why Friends of Acadia exists. Friends of Acadia is an independent organization of passionate people inspiring those who love this magnificent park to make a real and lasting difference for Acadia. You can make a difference at friendsofacadia.org. Support from readers and listeners like you make the National Parks Traveler possible every day of the year. If you enjoy the Traveler's content, please consider a donation at nationalparkstraveler.org.
So Lucretia, we're here in Kansas, central Kansas, Nicodemus National Historic Site. It's got to be one of the smallest units of the park system, no? You've got 5 buildings here that the Park Service owns 2.
Yes. I don't know for certain if we are. We are small in stature, but big on history, though.
You've got a lot of history. It's very unusual history.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
It's a story that I try to convey to people that come and visit us. It's a story of folks coming out and being landowners that were formerly enslaved, people that come out and they have the opportunity to have their own little community, self-govern, freedom of religion, educate their people in their own little bubble.
A couple of years ago, I went to Homestead National Historical Park, not too far from here, Beatrice, Nebraska.
Yes.
And I learned this similar story about how the freed enslaved they saw the Homestead Act as an opportunity to own a piece of their own land and,
Yes.
and raise themselves up, so to speak. Is that how Nicodemus was settled? Was it a homestead?
So so the 161 acres is the town site, and so they had the Nicodemus Town Company, and there was about 6 ministers and W.R. Hill, a white gentleman out of Indiana. They get together, form the Nicodemus Town Company, and then they're going to the south, particularly Kentucky, and they're telling folks about this opportunity to come out here to the land of milk and honey.
The land of milk and honey.
And purchase a lot of land for $5. And so that's what people do here on the town site of the 161 acres. But then folks are going out into the township and they're getting their homestead through the Homestead Act.
Why Central Kansas?
You know what? I have no idea why they picked here, but they were brought here. And Hill, the oral history piece of it is that he falls asleep down by the river, by the Solomon River, down by a tree, and wakes up with this great idea to create this all-black town. But it was capitalism at its best because he's trying to make money.
It's America.
Yes.
How did he make money from that?
He's charging the folks $5 for their lot of land for here on the town site. And so they had to come up with their $5.
And how big was a lot of land?
The 50 by 150, so big
Okay.
enough for your little dugout and a small little garden. And then that's when folks, you can purchase more than one lot
Sure.
if you had enough. But then that's when folks start to go out into the township and get their homestead.
Which they didn't have to pay for as long as they stayed 5 years?
Stayed 5 years, and there was a little bit of a filing fee on how many acres that you had. But
Right.
yeah, it's the beautiful American story of being landowners.
Exactly. Where does the name Nicodemus come from? It's not something you run into in America.
Right. So the oral history part of it is that it comes from a slave era song called Wake Nicodemus, and in the song it talks about a African prince who was captured, and he was enslaved, and his name was Nicodemus, and they said that he was a prophet because he talks about a good time coming when blacks will be free, and to wake him up for the great jubilee when that happens. And so it's said that that's where the name Nicodemus comes from, and then other folks say it comes from the Bible, where Nicodemus in the Bible, he's a Pharisee, and he's talking to Jesus, and he's like, how can I be reborn again? And so some people say from the Bible, and some people say from that song.
Yeah. So Mr. Hill went to Kentucky and tried to encourage recently freed slaves to come out west. I mean, do you know what his pitch was?
Oh, yeah. Come on out. There is this beautiful land that you can buy. If you farm, just take your seed and just throw it in the air, and that's all you have to do. There's wild horses out there, and if you can catch them, they're yours. There's plenty of trees out here to build your homes. So he's selling them.
Pretty good.
Yes. And people are like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try it.
And how many did he get to come out and settle?
That first group, they say there's about 350 in that first group.
Wow.
Yes. And within that first group, my great-great-great-grandparents, Tom and Zarina, and their 3 kids, they're in that group that comes out to Nicodemus.
Yeah.
And so there's other big waves that come, and then folks are hearing about Nicodemus, and so they're trickling in all the time.
Nice. Do you know how they got out here? I mean, you hear the stories about the Mormon church fathers, so to speak, and hand carts, pushing their belongings on hand carts.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Conestoga wagons coming out west and whatnot. How did they get from Kentucky to the land of milk and honey?
Right. They get on the train. So these folks that they are recruiting to come out here to Nicodemus, first of all, they have to have their $5 for their lot of land. And then they have to have enough money to get their family on the train. So they get on the train in Sadieville, Kentucky, ride it all the way to Ellis, Kansas, which is 35 miles to the south of us. They get off the train in Ellis, Kansas, and they walk over here to Nicodemus with their few belongings.
It was only 35 miles.
Only 35 miles.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I could do that. Now, one of the reasons that Nicodemus didn't thrive from my bare bones studies is the railroad didn't come by Nicodemus.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So the railroad does bypass Nicodemus, and we can't say for certain why exactly it bypasses Nicodemus, but some people have their theories on why it passed up this all African American community. The railroad not coming to Nicodemus economically devastates the community. And so some business owners literally take their businesses to Bogue and set up shop there in Hill City. And when that happens, it's not a mass exodus at that time. Few people are leaving, but the bulk of the folks are staying because they're landowners and they don't want to leave their land.
Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting. Well, before I get to the interesting part, how far away did the railroad pass that it basically shut off Nicodemus?
Right. So there's a map and you see it, and it looks like the track should come right through Nicodemus, but it makes like a upside down U, and 5 miles southwest of Nicodemus bypasses and then goes to Bogue.
To Bogue.
Which isn't even a town yet. They have to build up Bogue. It's not even a town yet.
Okay. Well, So at its height, Nicodemus was quite a place.
It was the place to be.
It had 2 newspapers.
Yes.
It had shops and whatnot.
Yes.
It must have
Pharmacy.
Pharmacy.
Yes. Banks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And today the Park Service, there's 5 buildings that make up the historic site, and
Yes.
the Park Service owns 2. So there's been a little contraction over the years.
Yes. Park Service, we lease the Township Hall building, and that is our visitor center. And so the other building that the Park Service owns is the AME Church, which has been restored. It's beautiful. We can go over there and I can show you that.
Yeah.
And then just recently acquired the First Baptist Church.
Yeah. Let's go check that out.
All right.
We spent more time with Lucrecia at Nicodemus, and we'll have more information on our tour of the historic site in the weeks to come. Following a short break, we'll have my conversation with Heather Brown at Tallgrass Prairie. Acadia National Park to a young boy was an incredible wonderland, especially to a young boy who grew up in central New Jersey and whose summer vacations typically involved a stay at the seashore for a week or two. Acadia presented me with tree-covered mountains threaded with trails to hike, crashing surf that thundered as it rammed Mount Desert Island, and tidal pools with all sorts of curious marine life. It was my introduction to the national park system, one I've clung hard to for decades. The parks have provided recreation, amazement, and solace, and a break from the tumultuous events that go on around us. Yellowstone, Great Smoky Mountains, Shenandoah, Canyonlands, the list of more than 400 wondrous places in this country provides us with a hopscotch list of destinations that reveal to those who visit magnificent sceneries, rich cultures, and interesting history. With wild seashores at places like Cape Lookout National Seashore, raging rapids that plunge through Canyonlands and Grand Canyon National Parks, serpentine underground mazes in Mammoth Caves, towering mountains that hold up the horizons in the Tetons or North Cascades, waves of dunes, Great Sand Dunes National Park and preserves, and thick forests in the Sierra and North Country, I've yet to find a better landscape for adventure. Within Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the Spanish missions of the Southwest, Jackson's death site at Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park, and Slavin's Roadhouse at Yukon-Charlie Rivers National Preserve, just to name 4 destinations, you can come to better understand the country's rich history. Whether you're considering a lifelong journey to visit every unit of the national park system or simply looking for a weekend escape, you can't go wrong in the national park system. For The Traveler, this is Kurt Repanshek. Here at Tallgrass Prairie, Heather Brown joined us on the back patio of the Preserve's Visitor Center. That buzzing you hear in the background is the rich insect life that calls the Tallgrass Prairie home. So Heather, interesting history here at Tallgrass Prairie. A long process they went through to get it added to the National Park System.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't tallgrass when the Park Service got it? You guys had to restore it?
It's always tallgrass. It's the species. It's Tallgrass Prairie species of plants. So it's
Okay.
all
Okay, but-
tallgrass in this range.
Right.
Yeah.
You said it was grazed, so they just
Well,
grazed the tallgrass.
They graze, and they still graze today. So you have to have a grazer for the prairie. I mean, the prairie has to have fire and it has to have a grazer, or it won't remain as a prairie. And so it's, the prairie here is, in the Flint Hills, is exceptionally well for grazing for cattle because of the weight gain. And that practice historically is still happening today. So you have, cattle and even bison, they'll gain about 2 or 3 pounds a day.
Really?
Potentially, yeah. But yeah, so it was, being grazed, and historically it's always been grazed, but it has to have a grazer. Even grasshoppers graze it,
Yeah. And so there's 11,000 acres, right?
here at the preserve, yeah.
Right. And how many bison do you have?
25 this year of babies, and we had about, I think, 112 total population. So that includes the 25
Yeah.
that we had born. So,
That's interesting. What's your population goal?
well, we typically always want to keep 100.
Right.
And so basically our herd is kind of like a satellite herd for Wind Cave National Park because that's where our animals came from.
Right.
Because they were the most genetically pure available at the time in '09.
Right.
And so if something catastrophic were to happen to the Wind Cave, we have the genetic makeup pool here that could basically start all over again.
Right.
And so that's what we do too. We cull the herd, about 20 animals or so in the fall, and we'll send them either to a zoo actually now we've sold them for food. Some go to native tribes and some just go to other conservation areas. So there's a smattering of places that they go. But again, it also, by culling the herd, that reduces the population so that it makes room for the next season of babies
Right.
that we have.
Right. Now, the Tallgrass Prairie is one of the most threatened biomes in the world. Once upon a time, there were 170 million acres.
Exactly, 170 million, yeah.
Is that why the Park Service was interested in creating Tallgrass Prairie?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons, probably one of the most important reasons, because, the idea of a prairie park had been around for over 100 years.
Yeah.
Even back in the 1830s, they were talking about
1830s?
1830s.
Well, Mr. Catlin. Catlin?
Catlin, I think.
Catlin.
Yeah. So they were talking about that then. And even we have a great quote that we use. It's from D.W. Wilder. And he talks about in the 1880s that we ought to have saved a park in Kansas 10,000 acres broad, the prairie as it came from a hand of God. Not an inch or a foot desecrated by improvements or cultivation. It's only a memory now. And he was saying that in a speech that he was giving. And so by the 1880s, they were definitely seeing, it going away, its demise. But the idea of a prairie park had been around for a long time. And so this ranch was available. There were different areas that were thought about being potentially tallgrass prairie areas set aside for the National Park Service. But this was available for purchase, and things just kind of worked out together for that.
As I recall,
We also have the historic ranch building site as well, which also tells another very important story.
Yeah,
too,
which I love. It's a fabulous
So it's
park.
a great, combination.
It really is. It really is. And, when I was on that trip and I came through here, it was to find the untold stories, the largely untold stories, to show people that, there's more to Tallgrass Prairie than just the prairie. I mean, there's this,
There's a whole natural element. There's a whole cultural element.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stories here yet to uncover even.
Really?
Today. Yeah.
Tell us more.
I think, yeah. Well, and we're still working on that too. So I have a new long-range interpretive plan, and we're working on opening up more. It's already open right now, but enticing people to go to the east side of the park, because there's a whole area over there that if you're not really into hiking, you may not ever venture over there, because there's great elements for hiking. But I'm hoping, I have a vision of this whole area in the bottomland of it being like a cultural oasis. I call it voices in the valley.
Okay.
And starting in with early inhabitants on the south end, and as people are traveling on the hiking trails, they'll be encountering different time periods.
Oh, nice.
Down through the years until they come up to this area, which is today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm hoping, through working with our native tribes and working with educational partners and a lot of different people, that we help tell all the stories appropriately and correctly and with respect.
Yeah. So why is the Tallgrass Prairie so important? Why should we care about it?
Well, the main fact is that there's just not much of it left, and it's also important for the species, like, for example, the monarchs, the regal fritillary butterflies, to survive, because it needs, those species need the prairie to survive. They need the butterfly milkweed. They need all the other wildflowers that are necessary for their basic survival. But they feed on that. There's the whole area of the monarch butterfly that we know about, that their habitat just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And so that's really important.
Yeah. I was walking with Eric, and I think he spotted a regal, and he got all excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's like, wow, look at that. Everybody wants to see the monarchs, but the regal fritillary, is very common and very important for the prairie. That's one of our prairie species, butterflies, really. So to see a regal is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Is it prey-based for something?
What now?
Is it prey-based, the butterfly?
Well, it's what is inside the prairie, the plants.
Right.
That are there. So typically,
the butterfly preys on the plants.
Preys
but what preys on the butterflies?
Well,
I mean, you've got this whole ecological
ecosystem
food
coming
chain
together. Yeah.
And so, can you talk about that a little bit with the Tallgrass Prairie?
As far as like what feeds on the butterflies?
Well, we were out walking around, and you have the bison wallows, and people who don't know about bison wallows don't know that they compact the soil. It rains, the rain fills it up, it creates this little water hole.
Yeah, it's kind of like its own little mini ecosystem there too. And we, before we even had the bison, you could still see those historic bison wallows, which that's pretty awesome, amazing. Yeah, you know about that. So, yeah, and I just talk about that today, yesterday and the day before. With the kids, about that, and there's water standing in it, and how it was important and still is to the bison, but everything, as in nature, everything works together. There is, prey and predator, everything just works together, and then when you start messing with one of those and changing that, it has a ripple effect on other species as well.
Right.
And we've seen that.
Yeah.
You can read countless accounts of things like that happening.
Yeah. Now, going back to what you were saying about how the Park Service came upon Tallgrass Prairie, and there had been discussions for, going back a century or so. I know in the 1930s there was a big effort to get a great prairie park, I think, in Kansas, and 1960s they tried again, and they landed, I guess, helicopters for the Interior Secretary to get out, and that did not go over well with the ranchers.
Didn't probably go well, yeah.
And then there have been talks in Nebraska connecting the Niobrara National River down to TNC. I guess that's 55,000 acres.
Oh, wow.
And there's a gentleman who thought this would be a great national park, great prairie national park. But the Park Service doesn't have any say in this, right? Not unless Congress says do a special resource study.
Yeah, there's a Congress. You have to have that element involved with that, yeah.
Yeah.
First and foremost, so.
Yeah. So all you can do is preserve this 11,000 acres.
Help manage it, and it's a great thing, too, because, we can manage 11,000 acres, but the vast majority of that in the Flint Hills is grazed,
By cattle.
By cattle, and, the ranchers are also great conservationists as well. They have to be. Mm-hmm. If they're not, they're losing their livelihood. Mm-hmm. So they're, just by survival, you have to have that as well. Yeah. So why would you overgraze something and then not have anything left for your cattle? So they're very good with managing as well. I'm not saying everybody is.
Sure.
Not everybody's the same, but they basically have to have that as a livelihood source. So you've got to help preserve and protect the Tallgrass Prairie, which is going to then benefit you and your animals.
So the prairie itself, one of the most, I don't know, is it endangered or threatened?
It depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know.
And the bison, some would say they should be designated as threatened.
Well, they are making a comeback though, because
They are.
Yeah, they are, and you consider that they were basically less than 100 or less than 1,000, and so animals at one point down from millions, 30 to 60 million down to 1,000. So all that genetic makeup comes from those basically less than 1,000 animals.
Right.
And to have genetics that's 99% bison, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You do the math,
What's interesting, those two guys up in today's Glacier National Park who had the bison herd, and they tried to sell it to the U.S. and the U.S. wasn't interested, so they sold it to Canada. And Canada put it in, I think, Elk Island National Park. And then when the Blackfeet Nation wanted to build its bison herd, it went to Elk Island. So you had this genetic loop over a century, which was really interesting. Are there other threatened or endangered species here at Tallgrass Prairie?
Well, we have one for sure, and then they were talking about both the monarch and the regal fritillary as potentially being threatened. But threatened and endangered is our little Topeka shiner. It's a little minnow.
Is it what?
A little minnow,
Yeah.
little fish.
What's it called?
Topeka shiner.
Topeka shiner.
Yeah, and so they're typically stream-dwelling little minnows, and so we have basically there's a lot of water that runs through the limestone layers here in the Flint Hills, and so every year we do population counts to see if we do sampling to see what's out there in the stream. And so I remember there being one year that we were starting to get a little bit concerned because we didn't find any. But they actually found a small population in one of our stock ponds.
Wow.
It was good that we have them.
Yeah.
But that's typically not where their habitat is.
Yeah.
Is in the stream. So I know that we took some from the pond and then we repopulated in some of the streams. But that was also I think that was 2013. That was a very wet year actually too. So that was kind of surprising. But no, we do. Our natural resource folks, they do surveys of all kinds all year long, plant height and area, and they look for invasive species, Sericea lespedisa and Old World bluestem, and we're working on that. So there's a lot of science that goes into the prairie. It's just not, here you go, they do a lot to make sure that we know where we're at.
Yeah.
And each year to see kind of that progression, if it's increasing or population or decreasing, or areas of where we're finding more invasives, and even as much as our gravel that we bring in for like the tour bus road, we make sure that it's clean, not from an area where there's like Sericea, for example, or Old World bluestem. So we're very careful about everything that we do, even as far as like when we do take the ATVs or the UTVs out, that they stay on the road, and then the natural resource person is then hiking out, so we're not spreading seeds picked up from the tires.
Have you noticed any invasive species on the prairie?
Well, we do have some, yeah. And again, it's the Sericea lespedisa and the Old World bluestem are the two common ones that we find. So we're very careful.
Do you try and get rid of it?
Well, yeah, we do, and we monitor it to see if it's not spreading. So I think what they do is some spot spraying, and there's we also do different fire regimes as well. So it's not just springtime burns that we do. We'll do late summer, early fall, that we actually will do prescribed fire.
Yeah.
So we'll have typically hotter fuel loads because the grasses are taller in the fall. So you'll have a hotter fire. So if you're wanting to get rid of, let's say, like smooth sumac or buckbrush or something like that, which is a woody plant, you kind of need those hotter fires to kind of help rid that.
You said Old bluestem was an invasive?
Old World
was an invasive?
It's considered an invasive.
How's it differ from bluestem?
It looks different, a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot to do here at Tallgrass Prairie, aside from just walking up the road and looking for bison.
Yeah, and there's not enough hours in the day either. So many times I get to work and I look up and it's noon. It's like, I just feel like I just got here.
Yeah.
And then it's like 4:30 time to start getting things around and leaving. So
yeah.
Crazy.
But I mean, you got the bison, you got the butterflies.
Yeah, and
you got there's fishing.
Fishing, and we have 3 ponds that we do catch and release fishing, and then also along Fox Creek. We allow that fishing area as well.
What type of fish?
Oh, we've got bluegill, sunfish. I'm trying to think if we have
Bass?
Bass. We have some bass. Yeah. I don't think we typically want to have bass because they eat the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all catch and release.
It is catch and release. Yeah.
And then you've got the wonderful history in the ranch, the Spring Hill Ranch.
Mm-hmm, yeah. We started our bus tours up again this year, so that was exciting. COVID really started us down that path of not being able to do those for a long time.
That's what Eric was telling me.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer. But the 2 buses that we had for that, they were sold. A company out of Alaska actually purchased them, Alaska Tour Bus Company, and so they got the buses roadworthy enough, and then they drove them to Alaska and for tours. So I need to find out if our 2 buses
they'd give them back.
Made it, and if they're doing well, they became kind of part of the family.
Yeah.
Hated to see them go, but it was good that they're going to hopefully get to be used for touring again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. House tours.
House tours. Anything else?
Special events, just because we haven't had a lot of time this year and everything, and so many of the resources, we typically would do a lot of different special events and things. But we were able to do some special events this year, and so we had a tractor show here in September, and then we had a quilt show, our annual quilt show that we do. And then the last one for the year will be our holiday Christmas event, the last Saturday after Thanksgiving, basically the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's people will dress out in historic costume in the house, and they're pretending what it would be like if people were back in the day, and doing Christmas readings of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas for the kids, and there's ornaments that they can make and things like that. So
Where would you do the quilt show?
we did it in the barn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they're hanging from the rafters.
Is the barn in the house open?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's our show for this week, and we hope you enjoyed it and found reason to visit these 2 unique park sites in Kansas. In the meantime, we hope you check out the National Parks Traveler website throughout the week to get the latest news from the National Park System. For The Traveler, this is Kurt Repanshek.
The composers and musicians at Orange Tree Productions have created a unique collection known as the National Park Series that has grown to include more than 30 CD titles. Composed against the backdrop of a park's sounds of nature, these musical scores will connect you with these beautiful places and take you there, at least in your mind. This collection is the #1 selling National Park audio series in the world and provides the background music for National Parks Travelers podcasts. Visit them at orangetreeproductions.com. Editing and production work for the National Parks Traveler podcast is done by Splitbeard Productions. You can learn more about us at splitbeardproductions.com. National Parks Traveler is a 501c3 nonprofit media organization that provides daily editorial coverage of national parks and protected areas. Traveler's coverage is made possible by reader and listener donations. Visit us at nationalparkstraveler.org.